I think we're live.
Oh, hi. Welcome to Radio Play. Our first time saying the title. I'm so excited for it's the same, but it's also
It's
a
the same,
little
but
different
just
flavor.
we've had a makeover.
Had a little, a little bit of makeover. You might not be able to tell, but it was on the inside.
We are back at it, ladies and gentlemen, ready to give you everything that you've been waiting for.
We leave it all on the table. We don't hold back.
No, we don't. We really don't.
I need to learn to do it a little bit more, but
Do you like my new Lia neon sign?
I love it. My wall is blank without mine. I'm gonna have to grab one.
Well, whenever you're ready,
Rachel.
VMAR Media. I will tag it. So whoever wants
Do
to,
it.
do it, check it out. VMAR Media, amazing neon signs. That's going to be featured in my first music video for sure because I'm in love with it.
That's awesome. I love it.
So, Rach, I think that this is going to be a good episode because we've kind of been MIA, missing in action for a little bit. And I like what we're going to talk about today because it's something that I feel is, I think it's kind of like the beginning of what starts to fuel you and pump you up when you want to be an artist or be a creator or a creative in any sort of way. And the topic that you and I are going to be discussing today is finding the right mentor or coach.
Yeah, or teacher, whatever level you're at. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I know that when you and I were kind of like talking about what do we want to record next, what's the next episode going to be about, this one clicked immediately because I'm like, well, dang it, this is a great first episode back because I feel like it's the foundation and the basis of everything, right? Who am I going to kind of follow in the footsteps of or in, right?
Both work, I think.
That's one of those that, kind of like things that make you go, mm.
Right. Yeah. So I like how this might be going on the trajectory of sort of sharing our wisdom on navigating this path of being a creator and artist.
And you know what I love creating a podcast and doing this with you, but I think as a podcast fan and follower of so many, because I have so many that I love and listen to, I think the most important part is, just giving that value. And like you said, giving that wisdom. And also, people out there just kind of want to hear, your opinion too, right? And it just kind of like bounce off ideas from others and then kind of make that decision, based on kind of like a little bit from everything, what you think, what others think. And it's just so helpful to hear others who are kind of in the same line of work as you. I feel like I'm babbling and ranting at this point, ode to our old podcast name. But, I just kind of feel like that's so important because, being able to listen to others' opinions in this field and then kind of like going back to retract and then you make, based on your, okay, I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. Just take over.
No,
you get me, right?
You're exactly right, because it's one thing to just hear people commenting on the same topics over and over or regurgitating info that's out there.
Exactly.
But it's more interesting to kind of hear digested information based on people's life experiences. I think that's more valuable in a way.
This is why you and I are a great team. You see how you just said that in one beautiful sentence?
That's where you were going.
And meanwhile, I'm driving the car and I don't know where I'm making the right or the left.
No, you got it. That was right. That's right on. Yeah. I think I've learned a lot along the way through trial and error. I hear a dog in the background recording his own podcast.
I'm sorry, that he's trying to take my spotlight right now. By the way, this is a great opportunity to introduce Snuggles. Snuggles is my doggy, and obviously one day I'll bring him in and kind of introduce him to you guys, hold him up so you guys can see him. But yeah, he's over right now. That's probably somebody who decided to come visit me in the middle of this recording. But you know what? We're not going to edit this because this is real life.
It's real life.
This is
You're
real
right.
life, guys. So, and the show must go on. If you're at your audition and the dog starts barking outside in the lobby waiting area, you need to keep going.
Show must go on. You
The
know what?
show, the show is going on right now.
Our podcast really likes to take on guests. So Snuggles, there's your debut.
Yeah.
And
I'll
someone will
think
be able
about
to,
it. I have to audition him.
yeah, someone will understand what he just said. And let us know in the comments. But yeah, I think both of us have had so many teachers, mentors, and coaches. I mean, have you seen like the through line of what has worked for you? Like what technique or approach works the best for you?
Rach, like I'm super hands-on, and that's in anything that I do, whether it be the arts or just, now I'm like, learning how to, play with the keyboard, learn a little bit of keyboard and perfect that a little bit. I've gotten into drawing a little bit too, because that kind of like, helps me wind down and helps me with anxiety and things like that. But anything that I'm going to do or take on, I am super hands-on. Like I'll watch a video or two to kind of just get an idea, but then immediately I jump right into it. So that's the approach that I always take. Whereas, I have friends who just love to like really read first and watch videos or listen to lectures, and that's how they digest it and apply it later. But I'm the type of person that even if I don't get to like watch a video or hear an explanation, even if I just see something, I'm like, here I go. I'm diving right in,
Yeah, when
So
you're looking at different types of creators, that would be called the implementer. So that's really interesting. I'm more of a developer. I like to,
mhm.
like you said, like gather information and all of that. So that's helpful to know going in, but maybe you don't know that quite yet. Like if you're at the beginning of your journey, you know,
Yeah.
I think the best thing to know is to have an idea of where you want to be, right? A vision that's sort of carrying you and navigating you.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you've had this experience, but I've walked in, like my first voice teachers, I walked into the room and they didn't ask me about my goals at all. Right? Have you ever
That's
had that?
happened. Yeah, that's happened to me before. Absolutely. I just feel like I've always been so right on, like spot on with what I want out of a class, out of a course, out of a situation, out of wherever I'm at that point in my life. You know what I mean? That I know what to take and what not to take from a specific class or
Mm,
course. You get what I'm saying?
yeah.
Whether the instructor or the teacher, tells me anything or not. So I've always kind of used that approach subconsciously, and I've applied that
Yeah.
to everything throughout my life. So
That's
if I
really
don't
good.
receive if I don't receive direction, then I give myself my own direction. You get what I'm saying? Kind of like that kind of. It
Yeah.
happens. Sometimes you show up to a class or you take a course or you or a series of classes, and the first class might have been great, but then you realize that it starts kind of like dying down, or it's not going down the path that you thought it was gonna take, or maybe I don't know, it could be so many things that could happen. Maybe the vibe wasn't there with the other students, because that all plays a big part of it too, right? Who you're taking a course with, who you're taking a class with. And sometimes, like I even spoke to you about it earlier, sometimes just the teacher's not the right fit, which is okay.
Hmm.
You just click and connect better with certain people. And that's all right. It doesn't mean that they're a not as good of a professor or teacher or mentor. It's just that they didn't maybe click with you as well as maybe somebody else.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. Like one of
Mhm.
the best things a mentor or teacher can do for you, or coach in any way, is to see you already meeting your goal.
Yeah.
And not every teacher or mentor is going to see that for you, is going to have the capacity to hold that image for you, because there's this sort of magic, because we don't understand quite the science of these vibes that we receive back and forth that we're bouncing. But that's one of the most important things you can do. And I learned that as a healer, right? Or a teacher,
Hmm.
a spiritual teacher. being able to visualize the person in their goal already is one of the most important things.
Correct.
So having a teacher, mentor, or coach that believes in you, maybe their technique isn't quite the right strategy, but I have found that the more the teacher believed in me, the better I did overall.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah.
I'm the type of person that I like for the teacher or the mentor or the coach, whatever you want to call it, to be like that balance, exactly what you have described, but also like give me that space, but also be hands-on when they need to be. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But gosh, like it takes that perfect combination for you to find. It's like a relationship, really. It's like, finding the person you're gonna
Yeah.
marry.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because it's hard. It's hard to find someone. Not everyone's going to click with you. So that's why I'm glad that in a way I've kind of taken that approach of like, I'll take what I can. You get what I'm saying? I can't take,
Mm-hmm.
I know that not everything is going to be great or apply to me, but I'll take what I can. And that way I don't leave the class or the course, or leave that experience disappointed.
Yes, that's something I always really respected about you and learned a lot from you. So another great thing to do is to have a mentor in different areas, right?
Mm-hmm.
Someone who's modeling the behavior you want to put on. And
Yeah.
you were someone who always modeled confidence to me. I could see
Thanks.
you, because I always did this thing where when I'm learning healing modality, that's exactly the approach I take. You just described it, where I've taken so many classes and educated myself so much. I know when to take it or leave it.
Yeah.
So I'm really well defined in that area. But when I started as an artist, I wasn't. So I had this habit of giving a piece of myself to the teacher, right? Like, please take care of this. Unconsciously, this was the agreement I was trying to make.
Yeah.
Please take care of this part of me. And I found that it really wasn't a great strategy. What might have been a better approach, because I'm so connected to spirituality and those elements, what would be to have modeled somebody who was already living the path that I was seeking to emulate. That can be really powerful, working with those archetypes. And that's something, have you done that? Like, have you found people that you looked up to, respected, and kind of modeled?
My entire life, since I can remember, and I guess it changes through every stage in life, and depending what your current projects and goals are. But my entire life, that I can remember, like growing up, being a little girl, geez, I loved every single Disney princess that you could probably imagine. Every Disney character that was brave and strong and, kicked ass, I wanted to be like them, and then I grew up, was a little bit bigger. And I remember, there was this Brazilian artist named Chucha growing up, and she had all these great, like, fun songs for kids that, motivated you. And they were just such happy songs. And this woman was like so beautiful and energy, and she danced and she sang these entire productions on stage touring the world. And I remember that being one of my biggest role models as a very young child, and wanting to be that, and emulating that, and that charisma and that energy. And then as I grew older, that I started getting more into music, then obviously my biggest role model was Madonna. And, and there's a lot of things that Madonna has done throughout her career that even to this day, I feel like, I take that and I run with it, and I apply it to everything in my life, whether it be, working in corporate America and being a successful trainer, or with my singing, or even here, being a podcast host, creating my first course, online course, which is something that I'm working on right now. So again, and it's something that you and I spoke about earlier, and you said, I've always admired your confidence. And you mentioned Madonna, and that's like the number one thing that Madonna exudes, right? Is confidence.
Yeah.
And since a very young age, that's someone who I've always looked up to and still do. And I guess, you don't realize it, but you kind of like want to be that, and you become that.
Yeah, it's really true.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in a business alchemy program, and one of the things we do for our business, we create a vortex. And one of those things is to create the vortex is to add people that are modeling either lessons that we need to learn, or that embody that support and encouragement and believe in us and see us in the way that we want to grow into. So I definitely put you in there. You were one of those people for me.
Short.
And I know. So, and it's incredible that we've been able to maintain that this long, this far.
Yeah.
Right.
It kind of becomes part of your DNA. Like when you, I don't know, like it just becomes part of you, you know. I can't imagine being not confident. And I don't mean that in a weird, cocky way at all. It's just that if I make a decision that this is something that I'm going to do, I'm going to always, if I've made that decision and I'm sure of it, like this is what I'm going to go for, then I'm going to go at it with confidence, 150%, because if not, then don't do it. Why would I go into something or work towards a goal half-ass? Not with that confidence. So I don't even think about it when I make these decisions, or when I set a goal for myself, or I go after something. It's just kind of like part of who I am, you know, like, hey, I've made this decision. I got to stick with it now. Let's go, you know, and kind of like, and believing in yourself is what builds that confidence. You know, you just got to tell yourself, hey, you know, there's so many people out there doing it. Why can't I, when I also have so much to offer, you know?
Yeah, that's really inspiring because, and that shows where your values lie, right?
Mm-hmm.
What you resonate with are these confident performers. Like that is engaging for you and entertaining. For me, I always resonated with the vulnerable, right? The emotionally vulnerable performer. I always thought that when someone can master that, I always really looked up to that. So I think that I put into my subconscious all of these examples of like really emotionally open and vulnerable. And I always thought that was the most magical kind of performance. But I can see how both are true talking to you.
Well,
You know what I mean?
But it's funny that you say that, because being emotionally vulnerable is also something that I feel you need to expose on stage as well. So when I'm on stage, whether I'm singing a song or whether I'm performing an acting piece or whatever it may be, but I feel that being vulnerable or letting yourself be vulnerable is also confident, or shows confidence. I don't know if that makes sense, because
it
I feel
definitely
like,
shows courage.
yeah, but it also shows up like, you know, like man, like you have to be really sure of yourself and like confident in yourself and in what you're doing to let yourself be emotionally vulnerable. You know, and it's funny because you said that, and the first example that came to my head was like, I remember growing up, and in my bedroom I would sing all of these Spanish ballads, like old school Spanish ballads, but like very like emotional and dramatic in the way you express them and sing them. And I learned how to be emotionally vulnerable in those performances, but at the same time confident, because you don't want to look weak, right? And not that that's a bad thing, because sometimes maybe if the character you're playing is weak, then you have to be weak. but do you understand what I'm saying? Like, it's just
Yeah.
being confident is such a like it's not something that you are. It's just kind of like this thing inside of you that just exudes, like this energy.
Yeah. That's
At least
true.
I think. Maybe I could be wrong. I don't know. That's just the way that I kind of like imagine it in my mind. I would love to hear other people's opinions in the comments, or whoever would want to chime in, because it's such a great topic of conversation, I think.
Yeah. The way I always see confidence is this really solid, um, centered, stable sense of self that
Mm-hmm.
um, is maybe unshakable or immovable, right?
Yeah.
And um, And that's something I really have to work up to. I really have to, do consciously put effort into that. That doesn't come naturally to me. It does come more naturally to me to sort of, because I see that as like really putting myself out there
Yeah.
and being engaging. And then the emotional vulnerability feels a little more like exposed, right?
Yeah.
Instead of like, this is who I am, I'm going to tell you who I am. And then vulnerability feels more like this opening and leaning back in a way of
Yeah.
like, it's more candid to me. I don't know, like, so for me, I do feel a bit of a difference, but I see what you're saying because it requires confidence to be able to display that on stage too.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and going back to what the topic is here, to me, all of that is, I look for all those things in a mentor or a role model. And and to answer the question, how do I find the right mentor or the right coach or the right teacher? I don't think there's one. There's so many that you're going to have throughout your life, and not necessarily is one going to exude all of those things that you one day would like to be, or all the skills that you would like to have. I feel like you're going to have so many mentors throughout your life that have a little bit of everything. But it takes just so many throughout the years, so many classes, so many experiences, and you find along the way so many different people that sometimes you don't even think of them as a mentor or role model, and they end up becoming that for you.
Yes,
That's happened to
100%.
me too.
I agree with that 100%. You are going to take on pieces of different teachers, different coaches, different mentors.
Mm-hmm.
I had a tendency of forming long-term relationships with teachers, right? And being with them for years and years and years.
Yeah.
And looking back, some were a bad investment for me.
Huh.
And I sometimes like to learn through contrast, so maybe others do as well.
Yeah.
If a teacher sees you as competition, right? Like if you're kind of in the same category as them,
Yeah. That could
can
be
be
a
problematic.
problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what do you do in a situation like that? I mean, how do you think you handled that?
Um,
I
I
don't know
was
what I
still
would
in
do. I'm kind of thinking, what would I do?
I was in a place where I was still fragile. I wasn't seasoned as a performer. I also had a tendency of teachers wanting to possess me and keep me all to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So they were afraid of letting me perform because they didn't want me finding, I guess, other teachers. I don't know what it was, but I had a lot of weird relationships with teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the best thing you can do is have a teacher who is confident enough in their own skills and abilities, believes in you enough to push you to get out of your comfort zone and implement, like you're saying, get out there and perform as much as you can.
Yeah.
And whatever modality it is, that's how you learn. You're not going to have enough voice lessons to season you to do 8 shows a week.
Hands-on.
You have to
do
get
it.
that. Yeah.
It's like going to the gym. You want this bicep to show more or be more defined. You have to work out that muscle. It's the same repetitive. You have to be repetitive and consistent. Like, in combination of that mentor, that person guiding you and giving you advice, like, hey, you're doing this wrong. Maybe you should apply this, or kind of like helping you in that process, guiding you in that process. And everyone's approach is different. From the teacher's perspective, their approach is always going to be different. So you kind of have to shop around.
True. It's so true. I'm from a small town, right? So the arts are limited here. It's an exclusive club a little bit, but I remember recently when I was at work in my previous job, there was a coworker, and she was younger than me, much younger. I think she was just getting out of high school. She was singing in the locker room, and I heard her, and I was like, well, you have a beautiful voice. That's a really beautiful voice. You have a great instrument there. And she's like, oh, thank you. I was like, do you want to be a performer? And she was like, yeah, I do. I'm looking for a voice teacher right now. And I'm actually talking to, and she named one of my previous voice teachers from this area. And I was like, oh, interesting, because this particular voice teacher teaches sacred music. And this was a blues singer. Like I could hear it
Oh,
in her voice,
wow.
the way she
Yeah.
was singing. And this particular teacher I studied with kind of stripped away all the power of my voice because she was teaching sacred song, right? And for you to sing and blend into a choir, right? And that's why I say, really know your goals.
Yeah.
Because she never asked me what my goal
The
was.
the more you know what your goals are and what you're trying to achieve, the faster you know how to get out of a class or out of a situation where that teacher's not going to work for you. Because
Exactly.
that particular student, if she's set on knowing like, hey, you know, this is what I want to sing, this is what I need to do, I need more power, I need to belt stronger, you know, I need to work on my breathing, whatever it may be, you go into that class or that or to that teacher, and first two lessons you already know that, hey, they're not focusing on the things I need, or they're start taking the a different direction, I'm done, you know. And you, in a very professional way, of course, go your own way. But you are dead on with that one. Like, that's why you need to be absolutely 100% sure of what your goals are. That's only going to help you
Exactly.
and help your
Exactly.
pocket, because as a performer and an artist, we know how expensive all these classes are and all these courses are, and it's a pretty penny, and you have to, you know, you have to just be cautious.
Yeah. And, you know, um, there are some teachers that will certainly argue that their way is the only way, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
think guard against that too, because your voice is so unique and there is this original fingerprint there. That's just for singers. I mean, if you want to be a Shakespearean actor,
Yeah.
you have to go to someone who knows Shakespeare, right?
Yep.
You need that. So knowing your goals is key. Know yourself, know, at least have an idea of where you want to go.
And, you know, I'll give you a quick story about my first voice teacher, who I was with for, oh gosh, I was with him for years. And it came to the point where you have to know when to disconnect and find that next teacher. Why? Because there's there's only so much that someone can offer you. And once you've known you've
Yeah.
outgrown that and you've learned everything that you possibly can from this professor or coach or mentor, then you need to tell yourself, time for me to move on and start working on different goals with someone who can now provide those for me. So it's no one's going to tell you that. You get what I'm saying? And after so many years with a mentor, a coach, or a teacher, you know, you become family, and they're not going to sit here and tell you. I mean, well, you might find someone who's that honest and cares about you that much. They'll tell you, Lisa, you know, I think, you know, you've reached full potential with me. It's time for you to move on to someone else who can take you to the next level, you know, and teach you, you know, how to belt here, because that's not what I focus on, or how to do that, whatever it may be. But a lot of times you won't have a teacher or professor that's going to tell you that, you know, because they just
Yeah.
love having you as a student, and they have so many students that it's impossible, right? So you have to be kind of like your own you know, little Jiminy Cricket in there, and kind of like talk to
Yeah.
yourself and be like, okay, where am I? What's going on? Is it time for me to move on? What do I want to work on next? Can this person offer me this or get me to my next point? So
Yes.
that's important too.
100%. Yeah. And knowing yourself, this this mode of self-discovery helps you as an artist too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I'm a very kinesthetic learner, for me, I don't hear phrases and all of a sudden I sing them. I have to feel them out in my muscles, my muscle memory. I also was trained to read music, so I'm a little bit visual too.
Yeah.
But I have trouble when someone sings a phrase to me and asks me to repeat it back. That's not a strong skill for me. Some people are more auditory, and that's how they know. That's how they perform, right? So it's
Yep,
interesting
that's me.
how, and I think that's really valued right now, is being able to do call and response, um, and that ability to take in the phrase and sing it back. And that's not my skill. My skill is to put it into my muscle memory
Of
and
course.
to read music. So you have to know yourself, know your strengths, because then
You
you can
have
also
to.
work with a teacher who understands that and can capitalize on that.
Self-awareness.
Yeah.
Self-awareness is so important. So important. I mean, I love it. I love it. I mean, I could talk about this for hours, but I want to kind of start wrapping it up and really ask everyone to really comment, you know, about this and maybe start new conversations that could lead to our future episodes. But again, finding that right mentor is not just a one-time thing. It's going to be throughout your entire life. So
100%.
be a sponge. That's my that's my 2 cents here. Be a sponge and learn as much as you can from everyone, because everyone has so much to offer, and something you never learn where you never know where you're going to learn something new or who you're going to learn it from. So just be a sponge.
Yeah, and get out there and do it as much as you can to season yourself.
Exactly.
100%. Yeah.
Rach, I love you. I think this was a great episode, and I'm so excited for the next one. Guys, I know like I said, we've been MIA, but we're ready. We're back in action. Radio play in the house for you. And we'll see you in the next episode. Maybe we can be your mentors and your coaches.
Yeah, list your mentors in the comments. Shout them out.
Bye, guys. Love you.
Bye. Love ya.